Hi there, I'm Andrew, you're watching That Gamer Ajax, and welcome back to the tabletop. Now, today's video is just going to be very casual, very conversational, and I want to talk a little bit about how I started expanding my tabletop offerings to do more than just Dungeons and Dragons. Before we really get started on the video though, I want to just reiterate that I still really enjoy Dungeons and Dragons. I have a couple of groups that I play the game with. I have a lot of fun when I do play. However, recently I saw a video that was kind of highlighting, like how to make Cyberpunk edge runner characters in Dungeons and Dragons, and it had this kind of weird, complicated multi-class kind of system, and it really disappointed me, honestly. Cyberpunk is a game that has its own system, and we'll talk about it here in a little bit, but sometimes D&D doesn't do everything, and I wanted to talk about my adventure and how I got started in playing other tabletop games and why I really think that you should look into games outside of just D&D for your own table. For me, the first other tabletop system that I started playing was Veil of the Void. I've talked about it a lot here on the channel. I talk about it all the time on Twitter, but it is a game that I really enjoy. And funny enough, I found out about it because one of the people that I look up to in the tabletop space, which is of course Matt Mercer, Critical Role is what got me started playing D&D, but he had tweeted that he had backed this really interesting looking sci-fi game, and I absolutely love sci-fi. Sci-fi and fantasy are my two favorite genres, of course, when it comes to games and fiction and whatnot. And I wanted to look into it a little bit more. And after checking out the Kickstarter campaign that was going on, I was just like, wow, this is really cool. And the creator was very enthusiastic about his product, and I was sold hook, line, and sinker. So I went ahead and backed it. And once I finally got my PDF, once the game had officially released, I read through it, thought it sounded really cool. It's a good blend of sci-fi and fantasy, and I pitched it to my Dungeons and Dragons group to, maybe give it a shot after we finished our Rise of Tiamat campaign. This was probably going on around 3 years ago or so, and once we started playing, we realized, hey, this is actually a lot of fun. And the game does something that I didn't even realize I was missing with D&D, and it really highlights character growth and skill growth, and the more that you use something, the more proficient, the better you get with it. And that was something that I before I started playing the game, I didn't even know that I wanted. And yet here I am, and now it's just comparing these two games side by side. When I'm playing D&D, I'm just like, man, I wish that I could have a way of increasing my skills without just having to just do the traditional level up or wait until those ability score improvements come. So that really kind of opened my eyes with the fact that there are a lot of other systems that do a lot of other things, and it was really incredible to experience. And along with this, it also kind of highlighted the fact that not every game requires hundreds of dollars of investment. I mean, again, I like D&D, and I like the collection of books that PDFs that I have for the game that I share out with people when I'm playing. But at the same time, if you are just getting started, the 3 recommended books are the Dungeon Master's Guide, the Player's Handbook, and the Monster Manual. Unless you get these for a pretty serious discount, you're looking at a minimum of a $60 to $90 investment right then and there. A lot of these other games, like Veil of the Void, to get the PDF of its core rulebook, which includes everything that you need to play, GM tips, and a bestiary, that's only about $20. So you can already see that there could be some cost savings there, and you could be learning an incredible new game. So along with this, I also just wanted to highlight some of the other games that I've either been reading through recently or playing, and what I think that they do particularly well that D&D might struggle with a little bit. So let's go ahead and start first with Emberwind. I would say this is a very D&D adjacent game. It's definitely got that fantasy feel to it, but it's very tactics based. Its combat is very fast paced, which is where something that I feel like D&D can kind of struggle with that a little bit, because some things, especially for new players, are a little confusing with actions and bonus actions and reactions. If you're a D&D veteran, you know what you're doing pretty easily. But when it comes to Emberwind, you have 4 skill points. A slow skill is only 2 points. A fast is 1. Free actions are free. And you just kind of get to do what you want. It's super fast paced. It encourages synergy with your allies. It's just a lot of fun to play, and you can do so much more in a combat scenario that D&D can't do, in my opinion. You're also encouraged to really trade out your skills on a very regular basis. Cyberpunk Red, this is kind of what started this whole idea for a video in the first place, and honestly, I think that this game has probably one of the best character creators that I have ever seen. There are multiple options to get you started. If you're a brand new player and you don't really know what you're doing, there are recommended starting equipment that you get to just choose from, and look, your character is already good to go. If you want something that's a little bit more in depth, you have a point allotment that you can assign to your skills as long as you don't exceed that maximum. And you're given a flat amount of money to start, so you can purchase, weapons and armor and cyberware and different kinds of upgrades and everything like that. So there are going to be choices that you can make. And also when it comes to generating a character backstory, this game is incredible for it. The life path system is so good. It generates everything that you need between where you grew up, your parents, lovers that you had, friends you have, enemies that you've made, like up to this point where you are starting to play. And it is so much fun. I mean, it even talks about what your iconic item is or what you value the most. It is really fun. Along with this, there's just multiple ways that you can advance the character in the way that you want. There aren't set levels or anything like that necessarily outside of class ranks that increase the longer you play a character, but I mean, that's really about it. And it's so cool to see. Something that I'm going to be running really soon is the Alien tabletop game. This is one I've been very excited for, and just reading through its rulebook, it seems to be super simple to play. You roll a certain number of d6. As long as you get at least 1 6 on that, you will succeed the check. You also your character will begin getting stressed the longer that a scenario goes on, and it really focuses on those narrative moments. It even specifically tells you to maybe keep rolls to a little bit more of a minimum. There's less of a chance for characters to have things go horribly wrong that way, but as they get stressed, it adds more and more to that pool, so you can succeed more, but things can also go horribly wrong at the exact same time. Lancer is one that I ran recently, and because I mentioned that I love sci-fi, this is for the mech kind of game that I've always wanted to play. I love Titanfall. I've always loved mech based animes and stuff like that when I was growing up, and this really scratches that itch. As you're playing the game, you start getting kind of contracts. You're earning different mechs and mech parts and things that you can kind of retrofit, and you can make a mech entirely your own based on so many different components. Narratively, it's very simple to play. All you roll is a d20. If you get a 10 or higher, you succeed. If you don't, you don't. It's that simple. Now, combat is definitely a lot crunchier, I think, than D&D is, but when you're first starting out, it's really not all that bad, so don't let that intimidate you. And lastly, there's Thirsty Sword Lesbians. I just ran this recently, and I gotta say, I have loved the charm with this game, even just reading through the rulebook, but playing it was so much fun, and I think that the Powered by the Apocalypse style games, I think, are great for people that are just starting out. The rules are very simple. You have the chance of, not doing well, doing all right with some trade-offs, and we're doing really well. That's basically it. And you only need 2 6-sided dice, and you have your character sheet, which spells everything out for you. You're good to go. That's it. That's all you need. And it is so narrative, and the fact that not everything is just going to be a pass or fail. I love having mixed results, and it definitely keeps you on your toes, but it was so much fun to play. What I'm really trying to say here is that ever since I've started looking into other games, I've realized that they do things very well, and they can fill niches that D&D doesn't. I'm not telling you not to play D&D. If that is what you enjoy doing, if it's what your group is doing, if you're having a blast, please knock yourself out. What I would at least encourage you to do is look into these games. Even if you don't play it, you can always use it for extra ideas and inspiration and influence that you can bring into your D&D game. It just, for me, I don't think the Dungeons & Dragons, especially with 5th edition, is the kind of end-all be-all kind of game, and that's okay. It's not meant to be. I would just really encourage people to try to find something that's a little bit different, and I just want to give you a couple of quick tips on how to do this. One, start looking at other tabletop games. You might find one that interests you. There are definitely some bigger ones. If you want to get directly out of D&D, you've got Pathfinder, for example, or if you want to get into sci-fi, Lancer is the indie darling in that case, and you already have some of the skills that you need to play that. If you want to start getting weird, really just start looking for it. There's probably going to be a game to fill that need for you. Once you find a game, see if they have a quick start. These are usually cheap or free, and it usually gives you a good sense of kind of how the rules are going to work, how character creation works, and they usually have pre-built characters that you can just kind of grab and go, and usually they're meant to last, a couple of hours or so. And with this, you can give it a shot. Pitch it to your group. See if they would be interested in playing in this style of game with you. If you have fun, great. Go out, buy that game, and you're good to go. You already know what you're doing. So my last words to you are go out, search around. There will be a game that can fulfill a niche that you might be missing if you are wanting to look at branching out from D&D. But that is going to go ahead and wrap up this video. If you have other game recommendations that you would make for people that are wanting to branch out, please drop those in the comments. If you like the video, give it that thumbs up. And if you want to see a little bit more about what I do here on the channel, because I really do try to highlight smaller games or indie games, maybe consider subscribing. But hey, until next time, I'll see you in the next video. Bye-bye.